All right. Here we are, May 11th. So exciting to come together as usual every week to have conversations that bring A Course in Miracles, brings it alive for those participating. And as always, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. The beautiful thing about this journey that each and every one of us is on is that we are already where we want to get to. There is no getting to anything that is not already fully accomplished in us. The journey is the process by which the mind slowly, but surely comes to accept the truth that has always been true. So with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us. I know some of our regulars will keep showing up here as we go. So glad to see you. Miss Kathy, have you back? It's been a little bit. We've got Amna. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that appropriately, but welcome. New seeing you here. Tom, so glad that you're here. So I'd like to start these conversations by asking those of you who are using the Course in Miracles, who have practiced the teachings of the Course in Miracles, how are you seeing changes in your life because of the teachings? Always knowing that all that's happening, like the Course says, is we're training our mind to remember the truth that has been true always. We are the children of the Creator. We are one with the Creator. To call us children, really sometimes it's just done that way to help us feel like there's a loving parental presence. But we are not necessarily the children of God. We are expressions of God. And if you want to call that the child of God, the son, the daughter of God, that's okay. All of these words have been used for millennia to help the mind get comfortable with the truth of who we are, to help the mind ease into the truth that we are powerful beyond measure, that our light has always been infinite. It is infinite, but the thoughts in our mind act as blocks to the awareness of the light that we are. So this is simply a journey, a very simple journey of remembering. Step by step, we give ourselves permission to remember the truth of who we are. But the trick is, if there's a trick to this journey, the trick is that to remember, we have to trade off something that is not true. In order to fully remember our magnificence, our wholeness, which is where we begin, it's where we always have been, we have to trade off a thought of limitation and take on a thought of expansion. So we literally are training our mind to accept that which has always been true. And to the degree that we are open-minded, that happens easily. To the degree that we are close-minded, it happens more slowly. And that's all that's happening here. We're trading off a conditioned thought, letting that one go, accepting the truth that has been true always. So that's why this is a journey of not going anywhere. It's a journey of remembering we've always been where we want to get to, which makes it an interesting paradox. Also, good to see you guys. Welcome. Hello, Crystal. Hello, Miss Jody, Miss Angela. So exciting to have you. So let me pose the question. Again, since you guys just joined, just wanted to know if anybody can share, how are you seeing A Course in Miracles impacting your life? Just any example that you want to offer, maybe within the last week or last month, it doesn't matter. But how is A Course in Miracles shifting your perception about who you are? And just unmute yourselves if you want to share.
I can share.
Yes, thank you, Kathy. And then we'll go to Crystal.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I didn't mean to jump in.
No. Don't be sorry.
And, once I join without video, I can't do video. So, for me, it's interesting how you feel like, okay, you've got this, right? I'm using the Course in Miracles, and you're really, for myself, bringing it into one area of my life. And I'll feel the power and feel like, okay, I've got this. And then, it shows up in a different area of your life as far as remembering the perfection of how everything is unfolding for us. And the ego can tell us the story that it is not for us and give us many, many reasons that this is not for us. And I've really been using the Course of Miracles in a powerful way in my relationships. And then, I'll feel like, okay, I've got this. And then something will show up in my finances and I'll forget. And I'll go back into that place of lack or fear. And then I'm brought back, the game of forgetting and remembering. So I'm really here today because I'm remembering how powerful the Course in Miracles is, and I'm called to it today. So just really tuning into how it shows up in all places of our lives, and it's a continuous journey. There is no, hey, I've arrived, I've got this. For me anyway, there'll be another opportunity. So today is another opportunity to show up and be open to the power of the Course of Miracles.
Oh, I love your share. Yes, it happens in every aspect of our lives because we are the common denominator. We are in every aspect of our lives. But the paradox that the Course wants us to get comfortable with is that we have arrived because we've never left. So there is a part of us that knows we are already there. We are already where we want to get to because we've never left that. And that is what we are accepting. See, the thoughts of lack and the fear, those are all obstacles to remembering, because if you didn't have a lack thought, then you would be in abundance, which is, you can't arrive any more to abundance than just accepting that you are abundant. In that acceptance, there is no lack. So you arrive simply by shifting your perception. In the relationships, typically what becomes an obstacle in relationships is that we don't have a relationship with ourselves. We don't know who we are. We don't know our magnificence. We don't know our wholeness. We don't accept it. And we don't accept it because we have a thought of lack. I'm not enough. I'm not, special enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not, pretty enough, tall enough, successful enough, whatever that might be. And if you don't have that thought, you already arrived because you haven't left the truth of who you are. We simply block it with a thought that is in opposition to that truth. So if there is a continuation to this journey, is a continuation to accept, however many lifetimes it takes, that we are way beyond what we have been conditioned to think that we are. And because we have a physical body and we are given a name from the time that we're born, we enter into the experience of limitation from right off the bat. The body means I'm me, I can't be you. So then that in essence creates a non-abundance. I can't be everybody, so I'm just me. That begins to feed the story of limitation. That if we don't have conscious parents and conscious beings around us to remind us from the get-go of our truth, that we're just playing the role of a separate self, but we are one with all that is, so that we can accept the paradox from the get-go and then just live in paradise, creating, because that's what we're here to do, is to create, including creating the idea of lack so we can create the experience of digging out of the lack, which is amazing. And getting comfortable with the fact that our thoughts really create our reality is about as arriving to the truth of who you are as anybody can get. Because if you're creating it all, then there's no more arguing with anything. There's just an accepting, okay, well, if I don't like that thought, let me shift it and lift it into a higher frequency thought. So thank you so much, Kathy, for being here and sharing that. And let's see, Mr. Christo, thank you so much for joining us. Good to see your sparkly face.
Howdy all, you wonderful beings, and thank you, Laina, for organizing this as usual. So inspirational. Well, yesterday I had a business meeting with a team of people that we all working about. We were talking about accounting procedures in our business, and there's a new lady that's joined us last year, and she, we got to talking about this one way of dealing with the monthly accounts, and she said, well, that method is not right, it's wrong. And we will continue to the discussion, and every now and again she said, no, that's not the right way. This is, you do this. So today when I spoke to her, I didn't want to bring it up in the meeting. I said to her, when we have a team meeting, I'd like us to not talk about rights and wrongs, but like to talk about what are better ways to do things. Because the moment we make someone's idea wrong, we putting up potential defense mechanisms. People are wanting to defend. Not that everybody will respond in that way, but it's not a brainstorming way. And I feel that the Course of Miracles reminds us that we're helping one another connect with our individual best choices. And someone else's best choice might not be our best choice, but they might not be wrong with what they're saying. So we're needing to adjust that terminology I like to adjust I like to adjust my terminology to match my respect for others that I'm working with, so that I can continue to bring out their best, whilst I want to promote my ideas, which might not be the best ideas, but at the time I might think it is. Doesn't make it right or wrong. And so that's sort of, I just thought that you reminded me of that aspect.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Christo, because the Course in Miracles to me is so practical. And if I take it and apply it to every aspect of my life, it allows me to do exactly what you just said, to recognize the presence of a magnificent, whole, perfect being before me, so that we can enter into dialogue. One of the main teachings of A Course in Miracles is about creating holy relationships. And holy relationships is where we acknowledge the wholeness of another. And that means we don't make them right or wrong. They can't be better than anybody else. They can't be lesser than anybody else. So thank you so much for bringing that into your everyday practice with the financial meeting, the accounting meeting, where we typically don't tend to think you can be spiritual if you're talking numbers, but being the essence of one who has remembered that we are all aspects of the divine wholeness that we actually are all part of, is so beautiful. So thank you for that. Does anybody else want to share how you are experiencing A Course in Miracles in your life and how it's shifting you, or how not using the Course, you're aware that it just creates a little bit more suffering, which is okay, because we're all creating our own reality. No right or wrong here. And if no one unmutes themselves, then I got a little announcement, and then we'll get right to what this morning I was inspired to share in this conversation today.
Hi, Laina.
Hello, Yuri.
How are you?
I am wonderful. Good to have you here.
Nice to be here. I celebrated my 52nd birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And was really a good introspection of how far I've already come in self-love and appreciation for my mom, because I was born on Mother's Day.
Oh, wow.
And, that even if nobody wished me a happy birthday, I would have been fine, because I got to spend the day doing what I wanted to do.
Oh, that's so beautiful. What a wonderful gift to give yourself, because there's no better gift than self-love. Once you love yourself, you don't need anything from anybody else. And that just allows for such freedom and such releasing the mind of expectations and keeping tabs of who gave you what, and then the needing to respond and reply and thank them and gift to them next time. So beautiful. Good for you. Good for you. Thank you for being here and happy birthday. All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let me share this little announcement. I made this last time, and I'm going to make it a few more times until we get to June 1st. I believe that is June 1st. Yes, looking at my calendar, it's on a Wednesday. So as I mentioned before, I've decided that I wanted to shift these calls to a platform called Patreon. And what Patreon is a place for people to come together and build a community. And I am so clear about building community. That's one of my strengths, is building communities in person. When I used to have a center, it just absolutely built, oh my goodness, an amazing community that I'm still friends with 12 years later. And hundreds of friendships came out of that. Hundreds of people came together and created amazing friendships. Anyways, I'm feeling called to move to Patreon and build community again. And Patreon is a membership site. When you join my community, and you find me by my name, when you join the community, there's going to be different levels. So one is I'm going to share content. There's no charge for that. The next level, the first level in essence, is $9 a month. And that's where I'm going to start hosting these calls. I'll use Zoom. We'll come together in Zoom. And if you want to be a part of that, it's a $9 gift. I just feel that it's time for me to create a reciprocity in my sharing and receiving. So I'll be able to put these conversations there, as well as other things that I'm going to do about different teachings from Jesus. The second level is $29 a month. Not only will you have access to these calls, but I'm going to create a book club. And that book club, we're going to meet once a week. And of course, everything is recorded, so you can always come back and catch it later. But I'm going to start taking the popular spiritual books and doing a book club, doing a study so that people can really understand the deepest parts of so many of these teachings. Sometimes we miss them when we do them on our own, but when we're in a group setting, we can glean information from other people. How did they put this into practice? So I am so excited about doing book club again. Also in that particular $29, I'm going to do a monthly, once a month, we're going to schedule a time to come in and do Q&A. All the questions that you have about how to understand our ego so that we can transcend the way that it holds us down in density. That's what transcend means, is to end the trance. Trance will end when you release yourself from the density of the egoic thought system that blocks our awareness that we're already there. So as my friend Jody said, there's really nothing to transcend, but we go through the process, through the experience, until we know that we're totally, completely free, until there's no suffering, no guilt, no shame, no fear in us. We have to transcend that which is blocking us from remembering that there's nothing to fear. There's a third level that's $49 a month. It includes everything before, but it's also going to include group coaching gatherings. So we'll have 2 Q&As per month, and then we'll have group coaching that we'll do on a regular basis, because people need to take these teachings and integrate them into their lives. And sometimes we don't have the resources to hire a coach, or we want to do it in a group setting. Just pop in whenever it feels like we feel like getting coaching at that time. And so those are going to be my 3 levels. But of course, I love sharing what I know. So you can always go to my YouTube and find all kinds of things that I'll post on there. But in the Patreon group, there will be some things that there's no charge for if you still want to receive the teachings as I share them. All right, that's going to start on June 1st. So until then, we'll just meet on this same Zoom channel, and then there'll be a new Zoom link for those who want to join me later on. And I so appreciate those of you who have supported me for so many years. And that little amount, $9, believe it or not, is going to add up and be very beneficial to me. So here we go. Yes, Christo.
Can I just, to make sure I understand it correctly, Are those the different levels that Patreon put out?
No, Patreon gives us a platform, and each individual community leader can set up their pricing. You know,
I see.
some
Okay.
could be $1. Some people charge $300. There are people there who charge $1,500 a month for whatever it is that they're offering, and everybody offers whatever they want to offer. So it is absolutely completely up to the individual to do whatever they want to do. So no,
We pay, but we contribute to Patreon and then they redirect. Is that how it works?
Correct. It goes
Yeah.
to Patreon, and then Patreon, they internally decide the percentages that they will then give to whoever's the head of the community. I believe Patreon keeps, I can't remember if it's 8, 9, 10%, something along those lines. But because they manage everything, to me, it is so well worth it. Absolutely well worth it. So any other questions about that? But I want to keep it so simple and easy for people to be able to access. Is that good, sweetie? Did I lose you? Is that, oh, okay. All right.
No, that's perfect.
Thank you. Okay, so let's get to today's lesson that I was inspired to share. And what I was inspired to share is lesson 125 from A Course in Miracles. And lesson 125 is titled, "In Quiet, I Receive God's Word for Me." This is such an important lesson to really not only receive into our mind, but to feel with our hearts. And it starts off like this: "Let this day be a day of stillness and of quiet listening. Your Father wills you hear his word today." And remember, if the word Father doesn't feel good to you, change it to Mother, or Creator, or God, or Source, or Universe, or Life, or Love. It doesn't matter what we call it. We are removing obstacles to remembering that we have been created by something. We didn't just create ourselves. That is the one thing that the Course in Miracles says makes us different from God. God created us. We didn't create ourselves, but we create just like God does. And that is what we are eventually coming to know is where our abundance comes from, because we have the power to create whatever it is that we desire. But to get to the place that we can accept that fully, we've got to get comfortable with the idea that we were created in the image of a creator. Whatever we call it does not matter. What matters is that we call it, that we begin to have a relationship with it, and it will speak to us. Let this day be a day of stillness and quiet listening. Your Father, Mother, God, Creator wills to hear his word today, wills you to hear his word today. He calls to you from deep within your mind where he abides. Hear him today. No peace is possible until his word is heard around the world, until your mind, in quiet listening, accepts the message that the world must hear to usher in the quiet time of peace. We all want peace. Everybody is seeking peace. Everybody is seeking to arrive to the place of acknowledging that, you know, we deserve to live our lives in joyful collaboration, cooperation, co-creation. For us to get to that place that we live in peace, we've got to begin to access the source of peace. And the source of peace is the recognition that we are one with everything. Once we know that we are a piece, P-I-E-C-E, a piece of all that is, we can experience peace, P-A-C-E. So the mind has to be trained into into listening to the truth that is already inside of us. That's why this is not a journey of getting to anything, even though it appears that way. It's a journey of accepting that we are already a part of that. We are a part of the creative source. We are a piece of that whole puzzle, But when we listen to the mind, the ego mind that gets trained in this world, we think that we are a part of it. We are not with it. So we are apart from it, APART, together. But in truth, we are a part of this wholeness, accepting that we are a part of that and recognizing that if we didn't create ourselves, there is an intelligence that is beyond ours that we need to tap into in order to begin to create whatever it is that we want to create. And this intelligence, call it life, call it God, call it source, call it spirit, is available to each and every one of us. Where do you think a new song that's never been written comes from? Where do you think a new poem that's never been recited comes from? A new invention, a new, comedy routine that's never been done before. Where does what has never been come from? Well, it comes from this source, this intelligence that is whole, that it is one with all that is. It is a part of everything. And in being a part of everything, it wants to share with us that which will allow us to experience the fullest expression of ourselves. That was my sweet daughter bringing me some water. That's just so sweet. So when we are absolutely willing to get still our mind, which, by the way, is the hardest thing to do, is to quiet your mind, because we are so used to all that noise in our head, and we're conditioned to be distracted with noise outside of us, the TV blaring, the radio going, the new song, the going and gathering and constantly and in so much activity, that our mind is trained into busyness. And we're always talking to ourselves and believing what we're saying and responding to what we're saying. When we get comfortable with the idea that there is more that we can tap into, when we get comfortable with that, then it becomes a pleasure. It becomes a joy to be still and listen. And what we are going to hear is that which has never been. It is going to be brand new. And as we bring it forth into the world, it activates a sense of joy, a sense of purpose, a sense of contribution. And when we are feeling that connection to all that is, we recognize that we're all part of each other. That's when inner peace takes over, because now you know that you're sharing with others and others are sharing with you from a place that connects each and every one of us with the source of all that is. Paragraph 2 says, this world will change through you. No other means can save it, for God's plan is simply this. The son, daughter of God is free to save himself, given the word of God to be his guide, forever in his mind and at his side, to lead him surely to his Father's house by his own will, forever free as God's. Listen to this. It is telling us that in our mind is what will lead us out of the insanity that's been created in our own mind. So even though it's saying that we're going to be led to our Father's house, Father, Mother, God's house, what that means is that we are going to be walked through the maze in our own mind until we pop out of the maze. When we pop out of the maze, we remember that we are already in paradise. We are already, this planet is a beautiful place. We are already in the house that we want to be in. If we incarnated on this planet, this is a house we wanted to be a part of. Not only that, this planet is inside of God's mind. So we are already inside of the most amazing place we could possibly be, which is in the mind of that which imagines all that is, including us. So we are being told through the Course in Miracles that there is a voice within us that is just as strong and powerful as the voice of the conditioning that forms our ego, the voice of lack, the voice that activates fear, the voice that says I'm apart from everybody else, I am separate from everybody else, the voice that has been trained by the church to believe that God is out there and we are over here, that we're separate from God, that we are going to be punished by God. So we have to be willing to question all of these thoughts that act as blocks to our remembering the truth of who we are. Because every child, as you guys have heard me say so many times, my little grandson, who's only 1 year old, just turned 1 last week, he knows there is a joy that comes from within him. Nobody taught him to smile. Nobody taught him to be happy. Nobody taught him to be clear about what he wants and doesn't want. That comes from within. There is an innate intelligence inside of him that divides his cells, that creates, the opportunity for his hair to grow, his nails to grow, which I wish the nails didn't grow so fast because they're constantly clipping those nails and he doesn't like it. He knows what he likes and doesn't like. He doesn't like to have his hands held still because he's constantly, pointing, moving his hands is precious. But there is a knowingness inside each and every one of us that we are born with. Then the blocks are added to us that begin to keep us in a state of amnesia, in a state of forgetting the truth of who we are, until such time that we decide to remove the blocks. And removing the blocks eventually leads us to the awareness that we have to enter into meditation, into contemplation. And it's in that stillness, once we stop listening to the blocks and we begin to hear the voice of God, that we begin to truly transcend the blocks. The trance ends of the thought that you're believing that has you in fear. The trance ends of the thought that you're believing that has you in shame or in guilt or in jealousy or in judgment. We need to end the trance that we have been placed under, that states that we are not what we are. Because as I said to Kathy earlier, we're already there. We talk about the journey, but it's a journey to nowhere. The Course tells us that we are not to seek for enlightenment. We are to recognize that enlightenment is what we are. We are made of light. We are the light of the world. Light is inside of us. It's what illuminates for us the truth for each and every one of us. And what's so amazing is that when we all recognize that light that is within and we all enlighten ourselves, we all live much lighter. We are joyful. We are happy because we lighten up. And what's so amazing is that we will all reach the exact same information. When we come to the truth, we all come to the exact information, the exact knowledge, because this intelligence only knows one thing. It only knows love, and everything emanates from love because it is love. So everything that it creates is created from that place of love, which allows for sharing, for abundance, for caring, for collaboration. So when we all remove all of our own personal thoughts of rights and wrongs and goods and bads, and I'm special and you're not, or you're special and I'm not, once we remove all of those beliefs that create the idea that we're different from one another, and we come to the place where we are all the same, each and every one of us becomes a portal for unique information to be birthed through us, to bring it as an offering to the world. So the writer or the poet writes the poem, the singer writes the song, the engineer comes up with a new formula, and all of us will be able to contribute because we become a very specific portal of this intelligence. But when it comes from the place that we all reach at as being the same in all of us, it is shared with love, because that's when we realize that we're giving it to ourselves. So when the writer writes a song, it's writing it for itself. It's going to hear it and enjoy it just as much as the one that is going to sing it, or the drummer that is going to, create the beats for it. And I'm not a musician, so I don't know if that's how it works, but I know that singers bring, the music or bring it through them, but there is a musician that puts the music to it so that they can follow the beat, the rhythm. Kathy, you're married to a musician and you work musician, so you understand what I'm talking about, even if I'm messing it up. We're all meant to work together. The chef that loves to cook gets to cook the things that the gardener loves to grow. And when the gardener gets an inspiration for what it is that it wants to plant, maybe how it wants to mix fruits together to combine and create something new that's never been, then the chef gets to use that and prepare it. And the one that loves to serve gets to be called the waiter or the waitress, and they serve it to the one that wants to eat it. And there's a beautiful community that is just like nature, where everything has its place because we're all pieces of the puzzle. And when we accept that we are a piece of the whole puzzle, then we allow ourselves to enter our Father's house. We allow ourselves to receive all that is available to us. And in that space, peace has to arise, because you know you're one with all that is. Why would you enter into an argument with that which is part of your community, that which is part of the orchestra, the dance that you're participating in? The next sentence, sentence number 3 in paragraph 2 says, he is not led by force. None of us, he, meaning you and me, are not led by force, but only love. He is not judged, but only sanctified. We are so loved. We are so, so loved. As I sit with my little grandson, I get to feel this unconditional love that I have for him. He doesn't have to do anything to please me. He is a child of God. He is actually my brother in God, in Christ, and whatever you want to call it. We are equals. He's just playing the role of grandchild. I get to play the role of grandmother. And when I feel into the love that emanates from me, I can only imagine how much more God must love the 8 billion of us that are its children. It just boggles my mind to imagine that kind of love. And I'm just so grateful that I've transcended enough bullshit in my mind, enough belief systems that have blocked me from being present, to finding joy in everything, in anything. Because if you want to look for joy, you'll find it. It's everywhere, because everything was created from joy. We just have to remove the obstacles to experiencing that joy, which means stop the incessant thinking that creates the fears, the lies, the lack, the separation, the jealousy, all of those things that create in our mind so many obstacles. And here we have a voice inside of us that will lead us gently through the maze in our own mind. It will guide us through all the thoughts, all of the beliefs, all of the ideas that we have participated in agreeing are true for us. It will guide us little by little. I don't know a single person that ever will wake up from the trance that is in that we have been placed under by believing the thoughts of the ego. I don't know a single person who wakes up that doesn't unravel the thoughts in their head. The process of being quiet, questioning our beliefs, deciding to let it go, deciding to choose to think something different instead of I'm not good enough to accept who we are. That process does not happen except for our mind changing our mind about what we're believing. And what helps us go through that process is we begin to listen to a thought that says, maybe I am good enough, in the same mind that says, I'm not good enough. The shift happens in your mind. It doesn't happen anywhere else, because we have this incredible loving creative source that has given us a way out of our own insanity. And we are led by love. I've never had a voice, the voice of God, be anything but loving to me. That is what helped me recognize the difference between that love and the voice of the ego, because of the voice of the ego is a tyrant. It is judgmental. It is blaming. It is fear-ridden. It is all about guilt and shame. It is not a nice voice. And until I began to distinguish those two voices, I was letting a tyrant run my life. I wouldn't let people outside of me talk to me like that, but I let that voice inside of me speak so ugly to me. And then I believed it. And I thought that that's who I was. I was that voice talking to me that way. But when I began to get quiet, to in stillness listen to the voice of the Father, Mother, God, I began to hear this gentleness. And I began to go, how in the world do I have this gentle voice and this ugly voice? So I knew there's two voices in me. And choosing the one that spoke from love is the work of remembering the truth of who we are. And every time you make the decision, individually, we decide, that's my truth. If I don't want to experience lack, let me not listen to the voice that says, oh, there's not enough. It's not going to come. There's never enough. There's scarcity, whatever. And then there's a voice that says, you are going to be taken care of just like the lilies in the valley. The birds, they all get fed. I don't see any bird going to work. I don't see, communities of bird working 40 hours a week so they can have food. It just is there for them because there is a loving source that takes care of each and every one of us. And the acceptance of being cared for manifests in the physical reality that we are experiencing. But we have to allow that to show up. And we are shifting. We're moving from a 3D world that is dense, where everybody went down into density. We were operating out of the training that you have to work 40 hours a week and only the rich get richer and the poor just, they just keep paying the taxes so the rich can get richer. That world is falling apart because there are more of us who want it the way that God says it's meant to be. We are ready to let it be fun and easy. We are prepared to accept abundance. We are prepared to accept ideas coming into us that we don't need to take personal credit for, but are part of the gift that we're giving the collective. We become the portal through which those ideas come, and they create and at times generate abundance. I am willing to receive through the Patreon portal, whoever came up with that idea, thank you very much, the abundance that allows for me to share what I know, what comes through me in a way that is financially super easy for people, because I do believe that everybody deserves to have the truth in a very super, super affordable way. And we are all given the opportunity to experience this if we are willing to accept that we have been created by a very loving source. And it is through the process of self-love, as you were saying, Yuri, that we begin to love ourselves enough to not beat ourselves up with our own thinking. We have to love ourselves enough to not accept a thought of limitation. We must learn to love ourselves enough to want to hear more loving thoughts. And through that process, we will little by little be led out of the maze in our head into the expansive space that here in the Course in Miracles or in the Bible is known as our Father's house. It's just a word to help us let our mind create in our imagination a vision of what it will be like to get out of a tiny maze in our head and into an expansive mansion. All right, so here we go, paragraph number 3. In stillness, we will hear God's voice today without intrusion of our petty thoughts, without our personal desires, and without all judgment of his holy word. We have to make the choice to hear what God has to say. We have to make the choice to move out of our petty desires. Now, let me say something about desires. There is confusion about desires. We are trained to desire more money, more stuff, more, bigger house, a lover, or this or that or the other. That training of getting more because it's going to make us feel better, that comes from egoic desires that all stem from lack. I don't have it, so I need to get it. We are being invited to allow ourselves to desire what God desires for us, which is so much bigger than what we could possibly imagine. It is not limited to this one thing. It is not limited to this paycheck. It is not limited to, to $45 an hour or $100,000 a year or $1 million a year. It is not limited by what the ego training is limited by. So we have to learn how to let go of our own little petty desires and see how small they are. Now, an amazing thing that has happened to me, and it happens to all of those teachers that I absolutely love and respect, because I see how deep they went into their journey. I see how they are transcending or have transcended their egoic thinking. We all come to a place when you know you are already whole. There's not a whole lot that you need, that you even want. So the desires for stuff goes away, and it gets replaced with a desire to share, to allow what comes through you to be shared with humanity. From that place of sharing, all the needs that could possibly be had get taken care of. So we are literally trading our very small desires of, I want this little amount of stuff that is temporary, that will go away if you don't protect it and put a chain around it, put a security system on it. It will go away, because we are operating in a 3D world where things are temporary. To be able to receive that which sustains you, you have to know that it's already there. You have to know that it is there when you need it, because your trust is that God loves you so much that you will never be in lack. And that acceptance of the creative source always supplying, but it supplies through our desire to share. It supplies through our desire to make available to the world that which only comes uniquely through us. And if we don't share it, that's okay. Somebody else will get the same idea. That's the way ideas operate. They come in, and then we extend them, we share them. And if we don't, well, then it doesn't come through us, but it'll come through somebody else. So this continues to say in sentence number 2, we will not judge ourselves today, for what we are cannot be judged. We are as perfect as can be. There's no right to that. You can't be wrong in who you are, because it is as absolutely perfect as can be. It comes from wholeness. It doesn't get any more perfect than absolutely whole and complete. We stand apart from all the judgments which the world has laid upon the Son of God. It knows him not. We don't know God. We've been taught about God by a church with people who were listening to their ego, who were selfish and greedy and had desires of, I want to be the Pope. I want to be the one in charge. I want to be the one that decides what we add to the Bible or doesn't. When people with egoic thoughts decided to create religion, all of those religions, every one of them that turns into dogma is done so by egoic minds. For us to really understand the mystical teachings, religions that teach the truth, and the truth is in all religions, by the way, but for us to tap into the truth, we need to know who we are, which means we need to know who God is. We need to know, because the God created us in its image. And this loving creator could not have created a sinner. It's not possible. How can we be any less than what God is if we are created in its image? So we have to understand, that's why it says in here, we stand apart from all the judgments which the world has laid upon the Son of God. It knows him not. Today we will not listen to the world, but wait in silence for the word of God. You know how I came to know God? It was a feeling. And in that feeling came a vision that allowed me to feel the magnificence, the absolute immensity of what God is. And when I felt within myself being part of all that is, and every cell in my body was like a cell of everything that is, like every cell in my body was a star, a planet, a galaxy, a person. So I was all that is, and all that is was the piece that I am inside of all that is. When I felt that love for everything, my mind was totally quiet. My mind could not think, because in that moment, the love in my heart was so massive. So it just was bursting, expanding like my heart was a sun, and these were rays emanating from within me. When I see my little grandson, I see that love, that light emanating from him. And it's so powerful to have a child showing me the truth of who we are, which is what I teach people, is to remember the truth of who they are. It just solidifies for me, we're all born that way. The son of God, the daughters of God, each and every one of us is born the bringers of love and light. That's why the Course tells us that we are the light of the world. We have been taught that we're not that. That creates obstacles, that creates layers, because our beliefs that block our ability to remember what's in our heart with thoughts in our head. So we shift to thinking and stop feeling. That's why this journey is a journey of peeling off a belief so we can feel the truth that that belief blocks. And once you get to the place that you feel this unbelievable love for all that is with no thinking, then you have come to know the way God loves. Then our work, if you want to call it that, our joy, our pleasure, is to extend that love to all that is. But it starts with us. We have to then, if God loves me so much, then I need to love me too. That's why we learn to love God. And once we learn to love God by allowing ourselves to feel God inside of us, we learn to love ourselves. And then we can love our neighbor as we have learned to love ourselves. And once we love all that is, world peace, of course, is a given. I mean, duh. What else would there be but peace when there's nothing but love? So how do we get humanity to that? Each of us has to go on this journey alone. There is no way anybody can be forced into the journey within to change their mind. That's why each and every one of us that accepts this as our journey, a journey to returning to the truth of who we are that we never left, we become an example. We become the ones that stand as beacons of light for others who are operating maybe in darkness, who are operating in fear, to see that we are in peace. And when they see that we actually embody something that they desire, because it will be their soul that says, I want that peace. When somebody begins to want peace, they're no longer looking for stuff to help them feel peace. They're no longer looking for the paycheck or the promotion or the partner to take care of them, to give them peace, because they know, well, I've had it, it's come, it's gone, I still don't have peace. We begin to go inside and seek for the peace, but it's typically because we see others that are experiencing that. That is the invitation for each and every one of us to be the change we want to see in the world. Because when we go inside and we change our mind about the world and we change our mind about who we are and about God, we are totally changed. That is, I am telling you, it will not be long before we begin to see that that is going to be the most prized possession. Still today, prized possessions are, a Michelangelo painting or, a priced guitar by so-and-so or a $1 million house. Those things are still prized possessions. It will not be long before we will all realize those things come and go. And when they go, they take our peace with them, meaning peace wasn't in us, peace was in the thing. It's like an old Buddhist saying, the student that goes to the mountains and went, oh my goodness, I went to the mountains and I found so much peace. I felt peace in my heart. But then I left the mountain and it's like I lost the peace. And the teacher, the guru, said to that student, well, you didn't find your peace when you were on the mountain. You felt the peace of the mountain. You got to find your own peace. Don't go to the mountain to find peace. Be the peace you want to be. And then whether you're on the mountain, in the valley, on the ocean, you'll be at peace no matter what. And that's what the Course in Miracles is teaching us to achieve. But it is a practice. You have to do this all the time. If you don't do it all the time, your ego is going to have its way with you. It'll keep talking because we listen to the voice in our head and believe all that it tells us. So until we're clear that we don't want to listen to the ego, we want to listen to the voice for God, then the work is to silence the ego, to quiet that thought, to transcend that thought, to don't believe that thought, to choose to believe something that is opposite of that thought. Then it goes on to say, sentence number 5 in paragraph 3, today we will not listen to the world, but wait in silence for the word of God. Bear being repeated. Paragraph 4 says, hear, Holy Son of God. That's who we are. The holy sons and daughters, the holy creations of the Creator. Hear, Holy Son and daughters of God, your Father speak. His voice would give you his holy word to spread across the world the tidings of salvation and the holy time of peace. We gather at the throne of God today, the quiet place within the mind where he abides forever, in the holiness that he created and will never leave. That is a promise. And it's a promise because it's the truth. Every single time I need to feel God, I just have to come inside. I come inside. I don't go to the mountain to find God. I may go to the mountain because it's beautiful, and there I just get into stillness and find God in me. Of course, God is in the trees, and God is in everything that I see, as the Course teaches, but it's accessed in me. Everything is a reflection of the God that is in me. So when I look at the mountains, when I look at the tree, I am feeling the presence of God that is in me, loving the presence of God that is in the tree. It's easy to do it in nature. Our work is to bring it to the world. Our work, as it states right here, is very simple, is that we are here to spread this across the world, the tidings of salvation. And salvation, of course, a Christian term, Catholic term. The Course uses the word salvation is to recognize that we spare ourselves the suffering. We save ourselves from our own insanity. We save ourselves from our own, tyrant in our own head. Once we save ourselves, we share, we spread the tidings of salvation. We show people, my goodness, I no longer beat myself up, which is why I don't beat you up. I don't judge you because I stopped judging me. It's too painful to judge myself. So why would I create suffering in my mind by judging you? Because to judge you, I have to believe I'm separate from you, which means I've got to forget our oneness. And for me to think that you're responsible for my happiness is for me to separate myself from the truth, and I have to begin to believe in lack. Oh, there's not enough happiness. You've got to give it to me. So when you understand the way the ego works, of course you want to transcend it. You want to end the trance of the lies that block us from the recognition of the truth that sets us free. What sets us free is the recognition of the perfection of who we are. And we are perfect because that which is perfect created us in its image. So a relationship with God has to be created that transcends the teachings that the church has given us about what God is. It has to transcend. We have to end the trance of the limited teachings about God and have our own experience with God. We are discovering that the world is filled with those who think that they are the authorities, whether they be the medical authorities, the political authorities, the education authorities, the authorities in the household and the family, the father that thinks that they know best, or the mother that thinks that they know best. We have to move beyond all those authorities who have told us that we are to look to them to get permission for whatever it is that we want to experience. We've got to stop believing that there is anybody out there who knows more than we do for us, and begin the relationship with God within. Course in Miracles says that there is only one problem. It's the authority problem. We have forgotten that we are the authority of our own beingness, and it starts by choosing to believe that God is inside of us and cultivate a relationship with the authority that created us, from which we get our authority to be sovereign over our own beingness. And when everybody finds their own inner authority, nobody's going to be controlling anybody else. Everybody will get their answers from within. And when you get your answers from within, if they come from the same place of we are all one, what you do for you is going to be perfect for you because it will come from a loving place. It may not be what works for me, but it'll work for you. And in your joy, you receive the efficacy of that belief. In my joy, I receive the efficacy of my belief. And all of us will then be co-creating the new earth, completely sovereign, completely free, completely at peace, vessels that will be used by the creative source, intelligently using us through synchronicity to bring forth more of what this world is looking for. The world is starving for examples of happy people because the world is tired of chasing happiness. The world is tired of looking for healing to come from the outside and it doesn't come, for safety to come from the outside, for abundance to come from the outside. And even if it comes, it's temporary. The world is tired. We're tired. Aren't you tired? I am so freaking tired. Was freaking tired of chasing. And I went into stillness and began to accept, began to receive, began to transcend the limitations in my mind, and realized I've always been there. I was born there, just as my little grandson. So now, as a conscious grandparent, our work is to help him remember who he is so he doesn't create those egoic thoughts that block the truth of who he is. By reminding him of the truth that he was born with, that you were born with, that I was born with, that everybody was born with, and anybody who attempts to think that they are better, right or wrong. Thank you so much, Crystal, for bringing that into the conversation earlier. Anybody who is operating from right or wrong, they don't know. They don't know that each and every one of us has that inner authority. And what we are here to do is share perspectives in a loving, joyful way. And if somebody wants to use it, great. If they don't, it's okay, because it doesn't belong to just me or to just you. It's part of the collective that is coming forth. Oh, Kathy, you're welcome. Thank you for joining us. That is coming from us to share with one another, because as one, we're always sharing with ourselves. It's just absolutely the most beautiful place to be. That's where peace arises from. We each recognize we're a piece of the whole, letting ourselves become the bringer of that to the planet. So with that, I complete the reading, even though there's more. There are many, many more paragraphs in that beautiful lesson 125. In quiet, I received God's word. There are 9 paragraphs, and we only got through 4 today. So I just want to open it. What are your thoughts? Did you receive any nuggets from today's conversation? I'd love to hear from you. So glad that each and every one of you joined us. Amna, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right. Could you share with us, how did you hear about us, and did you receive a nugget from today's conversation?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Amna, and received many, well, it's kind of like I already knew all of it, but it's just like, oh yes, I knew that. How did I forget? And everything that you sort of say like lands as truth. So, you know, that makes me feel really great. And I think just even sitting on this call has just like raised my frequency, my vibration. And just because we sort of like, if you don't have like a solid routine in the morning, you get up, you just sort of like, oh, what are all the things I have to do? And this has kind of like brought me into that stillness and just like remembering all the miracles that live within me that I've always known, and then I've blocked myself from seeing. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, thank you. You're absolutely correct. This is just a remembering the truth that is within us. I have a friend that says that these calls are her midweek spiritual adjustment.
Yeah. And we always sort of need to do like have that adjustment or like that maintenance, that spiritual, like we shower every day, we brush our teeth, and we don't complain about it and go, well, I did it yesterday, why is my breath stink today? So, but spiritually with all this sort of stuff, we sort of think that I'm supposed to have got it by now, and to actually just, I suppose, create more opportunities and be surrounded by like-minded people so that you have more opportunities to remind yourself, because we can't do it alone. It doesn't matter how much you know as an individual on your own. We kind of need those reflections from other people. So that's just so valuable.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I'm putting into the chat the link to my Patreon channel. And so if you want to join, because as of June 1st, you'll get the link for these calls through that channel. And the way to participate will be $9 a month going forward, starting in June, not for the rest of May. And I would love for you to consider staying in the community, because I know that I'm not, Laina doesn't have information to share with you that I know and you don't. I am very aware that I'm just reminding you of the truth that you know. I just happen to share it in the way that I do based on my own experience with truth within me. If it helps somebody, great. If it doesn't resonate, great. It does not matter. I don't take it personally. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And anybody else, did anybody else get some nuggets you want to share with our community? Just unmute yourselves. Oh, don't play shy today. I know some of you always have something to share. Well, maybe the teachings are just for us to absorb and take with us. Amna, thank you so much for sharing that. I always, as a teacher, love the feedback. So I am so grateful for that. Thank you for the heart. Thank you for the love. So with that, I wish you all a magnificent rest of your week. And we will see you here next week, next Wednesday. And until then, I love you and I'm one with you. You all have a magnificent day. If you'll unmute yourselves and at least say goodbye, I would so appreciate that.
Bye. Thank you, Laina. It's
Bye,
awesome.
Laina. Thank you. Have a wonderful week.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank
Love
you.
y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.